Hello and welcome. This is Eagle Eye 621, and what you see behind me is a lag optimized quantum tick or shaky sand farm. This one in particular is for bamboo, but this does also work with the sugarcane. To explain exactly what it is we're doing and why, I do have two very similar farms right next to each other. Both of these are for the bamboo. Both of them will produce about 6,700 bamboo per slice per hour, meaning both of these farms will produce about 200,000 bamboo per hour, but this farm right here will be about twice as hard on your game as that farm over there. Now, even at that, most people, it won't make too much of an issue. You'd really have to go about double the size before you'd have to start really worrying about game lag. However, that is very dependent on your individual world. If you have a lot of other machines going on in the background, if you have a very large storage system with a lot of hoppers or hopper mine carts, then you could have some issues much earlier than that. So if you're starting to think about going big, big meaning 100,000, 200,000 bamboo per hour, you're going to want to try to optimize your lag as much as possible. In terms of what it is that's causing the lag, that's generally, and by causing the lag, I mean in terms of things that you can stop or mitigate. The items you generate will cause some lag, but that's part of the farm itself. In terms of what's causing the lag that you can mitigate against, that is mostly right here, this flashing redstone that you see on both those sides as well as on the top, and some lighting issues. To make that possibly visible on YouTube, I don't know how well this is going to show up. I'm going to turn the farm on, and if you can see some blinking, those are the lighting updates that's causing the game to do a bunch of calculations. I don't know if that's going to be visible on YouTube or not. And then this flashing redstone on this side, and at the top are causing your game to perform a lot of different checks and updates, which is the primary source of lag in this kind of a build. So now, to avoid that, instead of having the redstone dust, we use powered rails, and then we also do have some solid blocks to deal with potential lighting updates, to deal with the sand when it comes over, as well as sometimes the pistons actually do blink, so we have these extra blocks here just to make sure that this is as easy on the game as possible. And we do have the rails on top as well. I did leave these two little bits of dust that are flashing just to make this a little bit easier on this clock, but you can also update that as well if you want to get really optimized. Let me show you how to build this and the materials you need, of course, but let me first talk about direction. As with all of these builds, the direction is very important. We use zero ticking block pushers. You can see these are exactly the same. However, when I click this button, this block is going to move and that block is not going to move. And you can see that moved and that one didn't, and that will happen every time. And that's because these are directional. So as you can see on my screen, facing west or in the east direction will work. If you put them facing in the north or south direction, they won't work, and the only real easy fix to that is to start over. So not a very easy fix. Do be sure you build this in the right orientation. In terms of your materials, helpfully divided into three sections. This is your clocks and your timings. And then this is per slice. Each bamboo makes about 6,700 per hour. You need these materials for each slice of bamboo. And then your collection system is the one I used in the sugarcane farm, which I'll put an iCard to as well. That way you don't have to go down a block every time you come to the end of the water stream. And then this is just a copy of everything to make it a little bit easier. And let's get started right here by coming up a bunch of blocks just to give us some room. Let's clear those back out. And I'm going to use this as our center point. So we're going to put a sticky piston on there. We're going to put an observer, and then we're going to put an observer facing in the other direction, one away, and then we're going to put a note block one back on the other side. So it looks like this. Now this is optional, but if you don't want the note block to make noise, I would suggest you put a button on it. And then in order to power this whole thing, from the last video, we're going to use a trick that allows you to put this on a remote circuit. So we want to come up and over like this too, because the redstone dust is going to go on this block. So we need an air gap and then our redstone block. Then we can put our slime block down. We're going to put 2 stone down so we can break this one closest to the slime block so that we can put our sticky piston right like that. And I'm just going to use a lever right here, but you can power this block with a repeater if you want and extend that anywhere you would like and have an automatic on-off system. Now we can break this block, and we're going to go 5 out in each direction from this center block. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then turn that corner. And then we're also going to come out 5 here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and turn that corner. Now I'm going to put a repeater here on 2 ticks. I'm going to come back on the inside because this is where our collection system is going to be oriented in this direction. You'll see as we continue on that build, and put 2 stone blocks right like that. So I can put one on the inside facing over the sticky piston and make sure that is on 4 ticks. Now we can get some of our redstone dust out and draw that line all the way across. And don't forget to draw it in there as well. Now we're going to point that repeater into a block, and we're going to point this dust into a block as well. Now let's work on our shaky sand. So we're going to want to point an observer into that note block and also into this observer. And we're going to come underneath it. And I'm going to do 3 slices just to make this a little bit easier to see. Now, to be clear, this material is for 1 slice. If you're going to do 3 slices, you would need 3 times the materials in this chest. So now that we have some blocks down, we can put our rails on these blocks. And then we're going to take our observers and point them into those rails, like that. So you can see our observers are looking at the rails. And now let's get our pistons and put them on top of these observers so that we have our shaky sand. And as you can see, if I turn this on, we have our dueling pistons. While we are here, we should also just put some blocks down for the lag light update protections. Make sure that's underneath these dueling pistons, not at the same level, or this will break. And on this side as well. And then, because we know what direction this is going to be already, we can put our dirt down in the middle. And we can put our sand down on the right hand side. And that's if you're facing it in this direction. Now we do need to work on our 0-tick block pushers. So let's get ourselves lined up by making sure that we add a sticky piston connected to the sand. And then on this side, we're going to want to have an air gap in between our dirt and our sticky pistons facing in this direction. So you can see connected on this side, and there's one space here so that the dirt has room to be pushed over. Now we can switch back to our clock side, and we're going to get our redstone torches, and we're going to put them on these blocks, just like this, one on each side. And then we're going to take our observers and point them into that redstone torch. And you can see, if we've lined up properly, that these observers are all lined up just like this, which is going to be helpful when we expand if you need to expand. Now we're going to then come underneath that, and come out 3. And we can break this one right here. Do that on both sides. This is going to be kind of symmetrical, or very symmetrical, that is. And then we can take our rails and put our rails down on this as well. And again, we do that on both sides. Then we need to be able to take a signal from there. So we're going to point our observers directly down onto those rails, just like this. Let's get some temporary blocks and come out away from the farm. So it's one up and one out. You can see we're going to do the same thing on this side. One up and then one out. And now we can grab our iron trapdoors. These can also be regular trapdoors if you want. I like the look of the iron a little bit better. Put those down just like that, and then point your observers directly into those trapdoors. So we're going to do the same thing on the other side. We're going to point our trapdoors, make sure those are on the top, and then point our observers directly into those trapdoors and remove those. Now we're going to want to get some sticky pistons back. So put a block here just to make it easier, and put those sticky pistons facing up, one under. And we can destroy that. So you see how that looks. And then we're going to do the same thing on the other side. Let's put a temporary block right like that, so that we can put our sticky pistons facing up, and then destroy that. So you can see how all this looks right now. Now on the side where you have the sand, you're going to want to put your stone blocks directly on top of these sticky pistons. On the side where you have the dirt, that's where there's an air gap right here. You're going to want to have an air gap right there as well. So one above the sticky pistons. And you can take a look and see if you've done everything correctly by coming back here and flicking the switch. And if you come over, you can see that the sand is indeed shaking. And when we turn this off, everything should turn off very nicely. If anything just went wrong, if your sand broke or it didn't shake, the most likely issue you have is that you have these timings wrong. There's only 2 timings you need to worry about. This repeater, which is on 2 ticks, and this repeater, which is on 4 ticks. If the sand didn't move, odds are you built it in the wrong direction. Again, looking at it, it can be facing north or south because you want the sticky pistons to be pointing east and west. If they're not facing that way, that's why they're not moving. Now we can work on getting our bamboo. So let's grab that bamboo and let's plant it. We plant it on the dirt, come up 1. And then we're going to want to put a solid block directly above those. Again, we're trying to avoid our redstone dust, so we're going to take observers and point them directly up. So you can see the faces are up, just like that. And then you take your regular pistons, and you're going to put them, taking an output from the observers, like that, so that they break the second layer, not the bottom layer. And then on top of this, you're going to put your rails. And now we can put a temporary block right here, this closest side to the clock, so that we can put an observer facing away. That is, the output from the observer hits these rails, which will power them. And then we can get our clock ready. So we're going to make a nice little L shape like this. Then we can have an observer pointing directly up, and then one pointing directly into that observer. And we can get our repeater. We're going to face one this way and one this way. Both of these are on 1 tick. And we can put a block here on the output of this repeater. Break that if you want to save a block. And then here we do need our 2 bits of dust. One in this corner, one on this corner. So what happens when you put a block here is it activates this whole clock, which powers this observer, to power these rails, to power these observers, which then turn on your harvesting pistons. And when this is removed, the whole thing turns off. So we know we're going to want to have it right there so that it'll get pushed over. And doing the pushing, we're going to need a sticky piston. And then to power that, we want to come one underneath and put a redstone block. So when the redstone block gets pushed up, this gets powered. And then right in this corner right here, we're going to put our other sticky piston so you can see where that is. And then you just come with your slime blocks to connect to that redstone. So now if everything has been done properly, when we activate this lever, the whole farm should turn on and start harvesting. And indeed, that is what is happening. And now we can turn it off. And we can worry about our collection system. So let's get our glass. This doesn't have to be glass. You can use any full block you want. And let's put the glass in behind the bamboo. Let's also come out over here to start building a wall to contain the bamboo. Just like this. We're going to want to do that on this side as well. And you can do this, of course, a bunch of different ways. But the idea is you just want to make sure the bamboo is forced to come along into your water stream, because hoppers have a 9,000 per hour limit, which does matter when you have even two of these, will overwhelm any one hopper. So now we want to come underneath and come over like that, and then come one out like this, and then we're going to come down on this side as well, and then out like this. So we have a 2 air block right here, and you can see that flush is on this level, so we come down 2 with an air block. But then we also want to make sure that when the items get skated across, they hit a wall right there. So you come one up from the side. And then you can drag this out as far as you want. And I will show you how to do one of the water streams so you can see how to continue it on for yourself. And that is 1 past 1 bucket. So let's get these all out right here. Now while we're here, we can also add our fence gates. And you're going to put them on this level. Do be sure to open these. Now in terms of how the water stream works, let's get our bucket, let's get a half slab, let's get some packed ice, and let's also get a sign. You put a water bucket down all the way back here. You see how long it will go for. At the block that the water is not on, break that, put down your packed ice, put a half slab, make sure that's a top half slab, and then in towards the water, we're going to put a sign. And then let me extend this a little bit further. Now on the side, where it's right above the ice, we're going to put some more water. Do not click on the half slab, you'll waterlog it and this won't work. Click on the block above it, and as you can see, the water gets pushed out. And then you can do that whole thing one more time if you want to go any further. Just give you a nice little profile view on that. So you got your packed ice, your top half slab, you go up and back one for your sign, and then you put your water source block right like that. Now you're also going to want to come in here and put water against the bamboo all the way across like this. And now let me come out one more just like this so the bamboo doesn't get flung in the wrong direction. When you turn on your system, everything kicks into action. And as you can see, the bamboo is not getting stuck on the ice. It is skating across and getting picked up and going to the next plot. And then this whole thing can be turned off again. And you can connect, as I said, a repeater to this block and hook that up to some sort of system that detects when you need more bamboo for your super smelter or anything else of that nature to automatically turn it back on. But this is only unload safe in the off position, so just be careful about that. Now, when we do get to the limits of the rails, and the rails have a shorter limit than the dust does, so you will need more frequent updates, you just repeat this whole thing with an observer which is facing the rail that the signal is coming from. So you can see the clock is over here. You have your observer that's facing the rail and then outputting onto another rail. And you'll notice that all of the observers need to be updated, that is, all of the rails, at the exact same slice, which is very helpful, because in this slice, all you need to do is put down your blocks to make sure that your water streams don't get messed up and send your crops flying somewhere you don't want them to. And then you can continue on down the row until you need to update again and update again. Now, when you have this system over here, what you have is a one spot input that will power this redstone dust, which will extend this sticky piston, turning on your shaky sand. At the same time, it will activate your zero tick block pushers to zero tick your sand over so your crops don't break and you don't have to replant them. And then when you turn it off, it pushes it back so that it becomes unload safe and off safe. At the same time, this whole line of slime blocks is extended up so that your redstone block is up and this sticky piston is extended over to this observer, which will then trigger your whole collection system into your harvesting clock and power these row of rails to power the observers and to actually break your bamboo, as you can see. And then off again. Or on. If you found this video helpful, I would appreciate a like. If you think somebody else might find this useful, I would also appreciate it if you would share it with them. And for more videos like this, do be sure to subscribe. Thanks for stopping by.